Welcome everyone, this is Alejandro Feijes speaking. I'm the ICC Community Manager. Many thanks for being with us today. And first of all, please sorry for the few minutes of delay we had on starting this webinar today. Fortunately, we are on track now. So today we have a session about intercultural frameworks for intercultural coaching. And we believe intercultural coaching is having a very important place on the coaching world, as even if you don't move to another place, you are related to many cultures nowadays. So it's important for coaches to have the skills, and this is why we have a series of intercultural coaching sessions with Nick, who I'm going to present in a minute. So before we start, I would like to briefly introduce the tool we are going to use to connect today, so we are sure we can make the most of our communication. First of all, we recommend you to see the webinar on full screen. So if you click here where I have the mouse now, in this little box, you can see the slides on full screen. And also, if you want to answer a question made by Nick or send a question during the question and answer moment, you can use this box of the chat box to contact us. And finally, you have a hand here. If you have a microphone and want to talk directly with Nick, then you can raise your hand as you were doing on a room. So we know that you want to speak, and then we are going to open the microphone to you. So just to check that everything is okay before we move to the webinar, please could you raise your hands to let me know that the audio is okay and you are hearing me well? Just clicking on the hand. This will let me know that we are okay. Many thanks. And then we can do a quick test on the chat window. Please, could you let us know where are you from? Writing a single message on the chat, so we know. Okay, welcome Iwa from Poland, Germany, Spain, Roberto, Portugal, Sara, Hamburg, Germany, Mexico, Sweden, Venezuela, Enrique from Querétaro, Elsa from Mexico. Well, welcome you to all you to the webinar. I'm in Argentina, in the province of Córdoba. So we have very international event today. Ernesto from Peru, great. Many thanks. Everything is set up then. So let me welcome Nick, so we can start with the webinar today. I will change the screen to him, so you will see maybe a black screen few seconds, and then we are going to use we are going to see the Nick's presentation. Nick, welcome today to this webinar. Many thanks for being with us today.
Thank you, Alejandro, again, and welcome everyone. I hear that we have again a very international group of participants today: Poland, England, Germany, and yeah. And right now I'm going to show you, I'll share my screen with you, and very soon you'll see my presentation as well. Right, Alejandro, do you see my presentation?
Give me a second. Not yet. Now yes.
Okay, wonderful.
Yes, everything okay.
Great. Now it's happening again. There's pause. Okay, play. Okay, this. All right. And okay, at this screen I can't see the chat, so I'm trying to now toggle to see the chats as well. So if you have been to my other webinars, you know that my webinar is extremely interactive, sometimes a bit too interactive, and that if you, I will at times call on your name, and that I hope you can hear me. Alejandro, please confirm because I hear a strange noise in the background.
Yes, yes, we hear you well. If anyone has problems, let us know through the chat,
Okay.
please.
Okay. And for me to see the chat, I open the chat box, right?
Box.
Polls.
The questions, Nick, the question box.
All right. Okay. Anyway, welcome everyone again. Hello. Yes, I see Maria. And if you have attended other seminars from me, you know that I'm a strange Chinese guy from Singapore. I started my career in Asia, in Singapore, and I moved from Singapore. I moved to work in Hong Kong for a while, after which I stayed in Singapore and I worked over in Asia, after which I moved over to Germany to work for 5 years. And that 5 years later, then in Germany, I came to Brazil, where it is now my second home. And my expertise are in intercultural coaching. I specialize in intercultural diversity and expatriate issues. Like other trainers, I'm a certified international trainer of ICC, and I also have several certifications on intercultural training and coaching as well. So today, without much ado, why are we here? We are here to talk about framework to do intercultural coaching. Right. This is, I think, indeed a very interesting, controversial as well, interesting as well as could be boring for some people who have not done intercultural coaching before or not familiar with the intercultural issues. Right. I would like to ask a quick question and a raise of hands quickly. How many of you out there are coaches, certified coach? Doesn't matter that if you are certified from ICC or certified from any other organization, just raise your hand and so that Alejandro can do a quick count. How many of you out there are certified coach?
Okay, Nick, I'm just giving a few seconds until all the hands are raised, but the trend is that about 40% of the audience is certified coach.
Okay, great. And next question is, how many of you out there right now is familiar with intercultural issue? When I say intercultural issues, I mean that you have helped clients to do intercultural training, or that you yourself has been an expatriate before, you have lived overseas before, and that you are trying to combine the two aspects of your living and working experience in different culture with coaching. Raise your hands again to tell me that yes, you have some form of intercultural experience.
About the 35% of people present today has that background.
Okay, so good. I think that's a good start. For those of you who, because this, I want to let you know the reason why we are here. We want to talk about a framework to do intercultural coaching. For some of you who are not familiar with this area of work, this can be, this next 50 minutes or 45 minutes can be very boring for you. I just want to warn you now. Or it can be very interesting for you, or it can be both, as confusing and difficult and interesting at the same time. So what I'm asking of you now is to have an open mind, and as you stay on with me for the next 40 minutes or so, have fun and ask questions and answer to my questions as well by keying into the chat. All right. So I recognize some of the people who have been returning to the seminars that I had before. Thank you for coming back. I really enjoy your presence, and that without much ado, I will now go ahead and let's start now. So when we talk about intercultural coaching and framework, the key question we want to answer is how do we achieve better results in doing international business across different culture? Because I imagine if you are doing executive coaching, the person involved here, the company that engage a coach to do intercultural coaching wants the coach to help the executive to consider cultural differences and let the coachee experience as much as possible the differences and be curious about the new culture, as well as bring all the differences in culture that he brings along with him as an expat to a new country. So without showing you this, having this question in mind, this will become as a basis for us for the next few minutes before I show you the framework that I work with personally in my intercultural coaching. First of all, look at this dimension here. We have, and again, this is one slide that I use all the time in all of my intercultural coaching webinars. This you will probably be familiar with, and that if, like the previous time, some people have asked me to send them a copy of my slides. I'm sorry that I disappointed you in terms of not sending it, because we have a I've been informed that the ICC website records all the webinars, and that it's actually more effective if you just go back to our ICC website and review the recording, and then you can see the slides over and over again as well. Okay, so I do apologize that if you have been expecting that some slides from me before. At least I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, I did one presentation, and that I didn't send it out. So that's the reason why. Okay, coming back to this slide, the cultural dimension. When we say cultural dimension, when culture is a very big topic, you can look at it in various forms, and culture can be defined in so many ways. And here are the 10 categories or dimensions that you can imagine how culture can be described. And if you combine and map the culture dimensions into the 2 areas, you'll see that all this will relate to business in sales, negotiation, project management, conflict management, leadership, team management, merger and acquisition, change management, that will result in getting better understanding, interpreting situation, helping the executive to reflect over action, and consciously taking actions to improve result. And coaching, basically, we are doing all that. And when you look at culture at this, many times, if you are a fish, let's say if you are a fish, will you know that you are in water? Well, a strange question, but if you are about 99% of the people I talk to, you would say, well, probably not. Because how would you know you are in water if you are a fish? Because you've been in water all your life. And that is exactly what culture does to us. You would only recognize that as a fish, you will only recognize that you are in water only when you are out of water. And that most of the assumptions that we have in culture is formulated this way. And looking at this slide, you see our emotion, our rational thinking and behavior. And like an iceberg, our behavior, our external behavior, how we talk to people, how we greet people, and all the nice things that you see up here in this last slide, like appearance, food, relationship, values, norms. Most of it here are like the tip of the iceberg on top that you can see. But there are a lot of things that are beneath the water level. What are they? They are your values and norms, your beliefs and attitudes, the consciousness of time, thinking and learning process, which is almost impossible. Even by talking to people, you can understand how they think. Maybe most of the time, the person that you ask a question about how they think, how they learn, they themselves do not have a clue how they do this, because it is so deep down below the iceberg. Right. So I'm just scrolling over to see the question. Okay, there's Alan Pops from Ahon said that you would like to see the presence of other participants if possible. Oh, that's not possible. Over on my side, I have a very restricted view as well, so that's not something possible. And that because of the technical issues that we have over internet, we restricted the participants from talking and chatting to one another because of the time that we have over the webinar. All right. So in future, when we have a more stable situation in terms of when we change a system, maybe that might be possible, or when we have a smaller crowd. All right. Next slide. Here, I want to present to you a tool that I use for my own intercultural coaching. It's something called the IDI, and it shows IDI basically means it's a short form for Intercultural Development Inventory. It's a measure of one's intercultural competence. It shows a continuum of one's specific orientation from whether he is a monoculture mindset or to a more intercultural mindset. And IDI is used in many purposes. For me, I use it for my intercultural training as well as my individual intercultural coaching. And in fact, I just had one in the morning today with a Brazilian client who is preparing to go to Korea. And I would love to share this particular client's experience with you as well today. But before I go there, it is important that you understand what this framework is about. This framework was developed based on the developmental model of intercultural sensitivity by Milton Burnett in 1999. And that if you want to look at the model, this is the website. The numbers for the qualified IDI administrators are changing each day. So this is a static preview that I had before. So I just came back from Minnesota, their last conference, and there I understood that now instead of 2,400, the official numbers is something like 1,600 ongoing qualified IDI administrators. So being a qualified IDI administrator allows you to use the tool, to interpret the tool for your own work. What I'm doing here, I'm not suggesting that you should use this. Rather, I'm just informing you and sharing with you. This is a tool that I use, apart from the other tools that I'm familiar with. That I find this tool relatively simple, at the same time useful for coaching. And if you know any other tool other than this, please send me a question. Please send me through the chat as well. I would love to find out about other tools. And why do we want to use a tool like IDI or any other tool? Well, because we want to help our coachee to develop a higher level of intercultural competence. And intercultural competence is the capability to accurately understand and adapt behavior due to cultural difference and similarity. And the aim for all interculturalists like myself who deals a lot with intercultural issues and coaching, my aim for my coachee when they come in for a session of intercultural coaching is to help him to move from a monocultural mindset to an intercultural mindset. That is my personal goal, as well as the goal of IDI. So if you think that there could be other goals for doing intercultural coaching, drop me a line now, and we can also discuss that towards the end of today's session, because today's session would be relatively short, and I give a lot of time for the discussion because I think this framework is relatively complicated for someone who have not engaged in intercultural issues before. But if you have been involved with expatriates or intercultural training, this will not be something new for you. So let's jump into it right now. What is the model, or rather the framework, about? It's about, if you look at the IDI as framework, it's about bringing a person who, through the 5 stages, and the ultimate aim for all interculturalists or intercultural training and intercultural coaching is to help a person to move from a monocultural mindset towards an intercultural mindset. And when we talk about this mindset, it's about development stages. And these stages are built on the framework suggested by Milton Burnett. And the first stage is denial, followed by polarization, minimization, acceptance, and adaptation. Right. Can I have a show of hand if anyone out there is familiar with this framework? Alejandro, any luck with people raising their hands?
Yes, of course. There are about 25% of people. It's knowing that.
Oh, good, excellent. So we have 25% of the participants here who are aware of this concept or aware of this topic here. And if I look at the statistics, I asked how many of you out there are certified coach? About 40%. How many of you out there have intercultural experience? 35%. And 25% of you here present with me in this moment, 25% of you here are familiar with this concept. So I guess the rest of the 75%, this will be relatively new to you, but that's the matter. And so we would, on the chat, please tell me, okay, if you have experience with this model, please send me a chat right now to say, yes, I have, so that I look through the profile later on, that we could have a more fruitful discussion after I present this model. Okay, so Sarah, thank you, Sarah. Christina, yes. Enrique, not deeply, okay. And I'm sorry, add that one more time. Sarah, Christina, and Enrique, and the rest of the people who have experience with this model, send a message to me as well. Tell me where you are from. Enrique's from Mexico. Christina's from Portugal. Everyone said that I don't know this one, but it's quite similar to what I know. Yes, because it's built on a framework that has been in the intercultural arena for a long time. It's one of the models that has started the whole intercultural movement, so to speak. And intercultural, I think, academically speaking, people only started looking at the importance of intercultural issues from the 1970s, and that's when the Hofstadter and the Tom Pear, they started the movement. And Hofstadter started in the 1970s with the I think the research with IBM, so it becomes a landmark research as well. But this model that Milton Burnett suggests goes into talking about how you develop intercultural competency. Okay, so I'm still waiting for the rest of the 25% people who said that you have some experience or you have you are somehow familiar with this IDI model. Okay, thank you, Sarah. So far I have about 4% who responded. So if my maths is correct, 25% of how many people we have, Alejandro? I think about 30 people here.
About that, yeah, 25.
So we should have about maybe 5 to 7 people.
Yeah, that's the level of answer that you had, Nick, so it's okay.
Okay, Spain, okay, Ligia, thank you. Right, so if I now go deeper into the framework, denial, and that's the stage where an orientation that recognizes only the cultural differences from what the person would see. For example, if we look at the, if we remember the slide before, the 10 dimensions that I showed earlier on, you have your eating habits, your appearance, your language, and all those nice things that you can see from the outside. So for people who are on this orientation, what they can see is only the differences on this superficial level. And can somebody tell me, or think for a minute, when does this occur? Then when does this occur that people would have this orientation? Thank you, Alan, for responding. Right. And this is a very curious aspect of developmental process, because if, as I said earlier on, if you are a fish, and that if you have never been out of water, you never know what is water. And like us human beings, we are a being of habits. If you will only recognize that there is no air, that you are running out of air, or rather, you will only notice that you need to breathe air when there is no air, right? You enter into a lift and the lift stops, and suddenly it becomes very stuffy and that you feel short of air. Then you realize, gosh, there's no air here. But normally, breathing becomes part of our own activities that we don't even think how we do it, when we do it, how much we do it. And this is exactly it for people in the denial orientation. Imagine the indigenous tribes from Amazon, or imagine people living in small villages of your country who have never come across foreigners, and the only foreign people they met with are probably people from the city or from another town of their own country who speak the same language. And already they feel that they are uncomfortable, that, hey, this foreigner, he's strange. Why is he strange? Because he's so different from me. And that all you want to know is he's different. And that all you see is he's different. He's so different that I can't accept him. Or he's so different that it's funny. And it's this orientation that blocks people from exploring further about what culture is, or what is the difference between this guy's culture from my culture. And this happens when people have very limited contact with person from another culture. And for human beings, we only know our own culture better when we are in contact with another culture different from us. Just a quick feedback, if everyone is still with me. Think of the situation in your country. Is it possible, or have you met people in your own country, maybe from the countryside, or maybe not even countryside, in the cities as well, who have this orientation? What are the kind of behavior they will show that shows you that he has a denial orientation, that everything foreign is different, and that they avoid any contact with foreigners? Lydia said, fear to the unknown. Exactly. And this is related to basically our psychology of, fearful of the unknown, things that you don't understand. That's perfectly normal. And the next stage in the orientation is polarization. The word polarization, according to the Webster Dictionary, means polarity, means just that. North Pole, South Pole means two different, totally opposite ends. Concentration of opposite extremes. So you imagine the first orientation, denial, that you can't even stand the idea of having somebody different, or a different culture, or somebody different. The next stage, where probably you have a little bit more experience, you come to an orientation that you are at the stage of polarization. But polarization can come in two forms. One where you become totally uncritical of your own culture, and that you are overly critical of another culture. So for example, when I was living in Germany, I lived in Heidelberg, and Heidelberg is a small university town with really a lot of tourists. But when I start to venture into the smaller cities in Germany, I was really surprised the look of the people when I drive past or when I go into the supermarket. They looked at me like, hey, this guy is different. And I would see children laughing at me. And then, good. So these are the people from denial, or rather they have no contact because they're so far away. That's fine. But then, if now that they come to a point where they have understood a little bit more about, oh, there exist other people that's different from me, then comes this stage. Mine is better. The others, oh, don't even think about it. You know, that's the defense in polarization. It can also come in another form, which is called reversal. And this happens a lot of times when someone is being sent overseas. Normally, it happens a lot, in my experiences, people who are born and raised up to a certain age in a developing or underdeveloped country, and they travel to a developed country. And not by his or her own choice, he or her have to come back to the original country of birth. They will experience this very, very strongly, the reversal, that they become overly critical of their own culture, and anything that is a different culture is superior, is better. So you see the difference now, that in this orientation you notice the difference, but you notice the difference such that you side one form or the other. And there's no way that you can accommodate that both culture of different culture can coexist in harmony, because for you it's either this or that. Ewa wrote me a message: looks down on them, laugh at them, or avoid being in touch with them. Yeah, because this basically is that state whereby you say mine is superior. Yeah, so this is a defense. And Enrique, he says that communities get isolated or misunderstood by religion, ethnic, and language. Very good. I think the point about religion, ethnic, and language, there's a lot of work that still need to be done based on intercultural issues, because when we talk about interculture or culture, we always focus on languages and way of doing things, but a lot of times how we think culturally is being molded by our ethnic group, our language, as well as our religion. And it is one of my mission in life that to help people to overcome this to a stage whereby at least coming to acceptance stage, where in order to coexist in harmony is really to see the similarity as well as understand the differences. Maria said that you live in a situation, you believe that situation with students who come from other countries. You live with students. Okay. And the next stage would be minimization followed by acceptance, adaptation. And if you look at this chart again, Sarah had to leave. Thank you, Sarah. Okay, I will send you an email. And if you look at this chart here, minimization is actually in the middle of this development continuum. This is really the turning point for a person. It is really the point whereby you understood that beyond differences, there are similarities between cultures. And this is the point where people start to say, well, mine is better than yours, and they stop saying that or yours is better than mine, but rather they start to look at the similarities. And the problem with this, or rather not problem, the challenge for this orientation is that because they have understood differences already, now they start to focus on looking at similarities. They seem to be more focused on looking at the common areas, like the universal values. What are these? Like, yeah, we are all humans. We have a definition of what is moral, what is being moral, what is morality, what is honesty, what is being kind, what is being helpful. These are universal human values, and that for a person in the minimization orientation, they tend to focus a lot on the common areas, and sometimes would ignore or rather have skipped the differences that are not so obvious. Yeah, because they are at the stage whereby they have overcome the understanding that there are people that are different from me, but now they know that we have common grounds as well. But at the same time, things that are below the iceberg, things that is not so obvious to the naked eye, they seem to look away. And the next stage is acceptance. And this is where, on the intercultural continuum, is the person will start to have an intercultural mindset from this stage here on, from acceptance. And acceptance for me is really the point of no return, if you like to say, if you like to think of it that way. Because if you develop a stage whereby you accepted someone's differences as well as the similarities, it's very difficult for you to go back and just focus on their differences, or just focus on their similarity. And this is the time, I think, where a lot of times where I myself experience a lot of time that we have conflicts, and suddenly in a crisis we share a common point, a common objective to do something together, and that we kind of forget about differences and focus on our common objective. And then when you start to accept the other person, you accept a person's similarity as well as the differences. And that is, for me, as I said, quite critically, a point of no return, because at this point now, you cannot imagine listening to stories about people telling bad about another person, because you know that is not totally true. Because yeah, there are differences, but there are also good things or similar things. And the final orientation is the adaptation, where one is capable of shifting perspective and changing behavior so that it becomes appropriate in that culture, and that he adapts in a way, changes behavior in such a way that is authentic. Now, between acceptance and adaptation, there is a difference. Would anybody like to tell me what are the difference? What's the difference that you said that you accept somebody, and then when you say, oh yeah, I'm adapting to the new way of doing things, rather than you say, I accept the differences? Everyone said the first is in the mind, the other is in the behavior. And Vicky said acceptance is partial or with reserves. Yeah, I can accept who you are as you are, but I'm not going to change my way to fit you. And that's precisely it. One is about behavior and the other is on the mind, in the mind. Petro said that he had to leave now. Okay, thank you, but come back to the ICC website, because this will be recorded. This is recorded for future broadcasting as well on the ICC website. Thank you for coming. And lastly, there is this other aspect called cultural disengagement. Cultural disengagement, I would like to tell a short story about myself, and you will immediately know what it means. When I first started going to Germany, being Asian, being a Chinese from Singapore, I'm extremely, by a lot of people's standard, I'm extremely harsh on myself, or in other words, disciplined, or very focused on my objective, on what I want. So when I accepted the overseas postings in Germany, I was extremely determined to learn to speak German, and to learn and understand what is the German way of doing things. And I told myself, I am not going to watch BBC, I'm not going to watch CNN. The only television that I'll watch will be German channel, and I will not mix with Asian people, because I want to learn everything that is German, and I want to immerse in it so that I have the maximum return on it. And of course, this way I cut myself, or in this case, I detach myself from my own primary cultural group. In my case, Asian, or people from the same country as I am, could be from Singapore or Malaysia, that we are culturally very similar. I detach myself, and that I consciously made an effort to only go to German movies, to go to a bar that people won't speak English to me, and that in Heidelberg, because it's a university town, many people speak English. So if they realize that you can't speak German very well, automatically, to help you, being kind, they will try to speak English with you to help you out. But for me, I avoided that totally. I go to the bar that the bartender don't speak English at all so that I can practice German. So it is very harsh, and it was a conscious effort from my side to be culturally and socially detached from a primary culture group that I belong. And of course, my objective was to learn as much as possible in the short time I had in Germany, because when I was first posted there, my contract was only for 2 years, but in fact I stayed for 5. So if I knew that I would be staying for 5, I wouldn't have done that to myself because it is a very tough decision to make, and it's very hard. But I was very glad I did that because I learned so much during the first 1.5 years until I started really be able to converse in German after 18 months, and that's been really, really hard for me. So you can imagine there are people, your clients or family of your clients, who could be for one reason or another trying to avoid in contact with people from their own primary cultural group. And this would affect in a way which I just described to you, a conscious effort to not be in contact with the people or culture that identify as me as a Chinese, me as an Asian, me as someone from Singapore. So I hope that is clear. And Maria just pointed out something. When I adapt myself, I change. Yes, exactly. So when you look at these stages here, the characteristics are as follows. Denial and polarization. Your culture is the central, is the only reality that you have. And when you come to minimization, you're familiar with different culture. So you minimize the differences, and that you become more focused on the similar aspect. And that's what this characteristic is talking about, that you become familiar with different cultures and patterns through your own cultural perspective. Notice it's through your own cultural perspective. And when you come to acceptance and adaptation, you understand that culture, your culture is not the central to reality. Apart from the culture that you are familiar with, there are other realities as well. So at this stage right now, I would like to share with you a short scenario, which I call it my coaching time, that take about 30 seconds to 1 minute to read through this case study here. Or I won't call it a case study, probably a scenario. It's adapted by a good book called Intercultural Interactions. So if you are in South Korea as the country manager of a subsidiary, and your secretary, Cheong, she made a mistake of forgetting to send a letter that you had told her to send. So, I mean, for you, this is a small mistake, but you decided to tell her during lunch in the company cafeteria, in the company canteen. But ever since then, Cheong seems to be behaving differently, or rather strangely. She closes the door more loudly than usual, and she looks kind of sad and moody. And she begins to call in sick several times. Something which is not unusual, because you understand from other her previous bosses that she is an excellent worker and she hardly ever call in sick. So at this point you decide to say, I think maybe I should talk to her. Yeah, and then you call her in and you said, Cheong, is there a problem? I'm just wondering if there's something bothering you. Is there a problem between us now working together? And at this point, Cheong, she looked very distressed. And then slowly she said, well, the problem has to do with her mistake. And then you breathe a sign of relief and say, you said, that's not a big deal. I was thinking, okay, I thought it was something else. And that, but over the next few weeks, Cheong took a few more days of sick leave, and she doesn't even speak to you or look at you in the eye or become very distant. What do you think happened here? And if you are the coach here, not knowing what is the orientation of this manager is, yeah. What do you think? What was the mistake that our friend, the country manager, have made here? What are the questions that you will ask this country manager? What are the type of questions that you would ask her, ask the country manager, to help the country manager reflect on what had happened? And of course, this event is bothering the country manager, otherwise he wouldn't have brought it up to you as the coach. Sabrina, I wonder if you're still with us. Sabrina from Hamburg. What do you think happened here? And what are the kind of questions you would ask this country manager to probe, to get more information, to help him understand what he's going through and help him reflect? Wow, I've been receiving quite a number of response by now. So Pierre had given me something, Alan had, Jose, Sarah, Lygia. Right. So I hope I'm not talking to air when I ask Sabrina. I hope she's still there. Right. So we have a series of responses here. Pierre said that she probably lost face in front of others in the cafeteria. And Ricky said to claim in the cafeteria, maybe in front of other people. Yeah. Esther said how has to do with her mistake. What is for her the mistake? Amelia said that he has to leave. Okay. What do you think happened here? Yeah, that's a very open-ended question, Maria. Good. And Ellen posted this. I will just read this out to everybody. She had different expectations for how her mistake should have been handled. The manager should have been aware of how to deal with discipline in a different country and what he thinks is important and not important compared to her perceptions. Good point. Jose Pedro Cunha said that it is a big thing the country manager might notice that. Why is this so important? Okay. Sarah said that, do you know how she feels? Yeah, if you are coaching this manager. How that made you feel? How important was that for you? Said Lydia. And Maria Andrea Carvalho said, what can you do to change this communication? What Ewa mentioned, what's important for Chung Li and what's important for you? What did you want to achieve by telling it to her in the cafeteria? Good point. And Maria Andrea Carvalho mentioned again, do you realize how important it is to her to be okay? So obviously you are assuming that the manager has perceived that something is not okay between the country manager, the manager, and the secretary. Yeah, Roberto mentioned, I think that it is a communication problem. Probably the manager must review his method in this case. And Maria Andrea Carvalho mentioned again, did you talk to her in private to understand her view? Yeah. Well, in this case study, or this scenario here, the manager did talk to her in private, that because he decided to talk to her in private and ask her if there is a problem. Yeah. So yes, there is, just for feedback, that the manager tried to talk to her in private as well, but that's after he talked to her in public. And Esther mentioned that she admits the problem has to do with her mistake, but it's more. What is the problem? Yeah. So if you look at the scenario here, what we're talking about here in terms of intercultural issues here, most of the time it manifests itself in communications, in how one communicates to the other. And we tend to assume that what is correct for us to do, to say, to present, to show in our culture is also appropriate for another. And all of your replies, I thank you for all your replies and your participation, point to this direction about communication. And our friend, the country manager, if we have a chance to do the IDI profile on him, he could be on minimization because he would think that everybody's the same. And that it's not a big deal. And he said to her, it's not a big deal. But obviously, to Chung Li, it is a big deal. And that the point of this is that behind this communication, way of communication, fundamentally, it exists a different way of communicating with one another between these two people. One culture is more direct, the other culture is less direct. One culture expects the other person to interpret the information by just showing the behavior, like Chung Li. She closes the door louder and she doesn't turn up to work. And that in her culture, it is the responsibility of the manager to try to understand. And when the manager confronted her, even though it is in private, what's the problem, Chung Li? This probably got her even more upset. What's the problem? You're the problem. And the problem is that you shouldn't be asking me. You should know better what you did. So all these conversations they have in their own head is because of the cultural conditioning, how they think and how they've been brought up normally. And Enrique just mentioned, he probably need to go deeper asking her a big deal. Yeah. So from this short little scenario here, we extract a situation, and that in many times your coachee in an intercultural coaching session, if you know where your coachee's orientation lies, when they bring up a situation, it's fairly easy for you as a coach to understand where they are in the development work, as well as to point to them where went wrong. And of course, here is the pitfall that I want to point to everyone. Can you coach someone who is of a higher development status or higher orientation than you? For example, if you as the coach, you are still entering into minimization, not into acceptance, but your coachee is on acceptance already, what will happen to this coaching relationship? And this is one thing that if you have been following my chain of thought and my series of webinar, in coaching, not just intercultural coaching, could be other form of coaching, life coaching, team coaching, executive coaching. If the coach has a blind spot, it is very difficult to help the coachee or the client see a different perspective. Ewa said this is not possible. I tend to agree with you, because if the coach have a blind spot and he has not there yet, it's even more difficult for him. It's you know, it's like asking somebody to describe to go to a place that he had never been to. How do you get to the coffee shop from here? Well, if you have not been to the coffee shop and you know it from a map, well, probably you can explain it through the map, but then that's as good as it gets. Because you have not physically been to the cafe walking or driving. And to explain that to a person, that's even more difficult. At least to help them understand what went wrong or what could have went wrong. Jose sent me a message. So the manager should think over about why the mistake is so important without asking. Yes. In this instance, we're talking about culture from South Korea, or in general Asian culture like the Japanese, the Koreans, the Chinese. We have a way of communication we call high context. We expect the other person to understand. There's this expectation that the listener will have to interpret our information. A yes is never a yes. So, Chun-Li became more distressed when the manager confronted her. What's your problem? Is there a problem even? You know, Chun-Li would have been thinking in her head, well, you bloody should well know. You know, you've done this, and then you tell everybody in the canteen that I didn't do this. You know, what do you think I feel? And that you should know, and that by being sick and that not being kind to you anymore, that something is wrong, and that you should reflect, and you shouldn't be asking me. So all these things about subtleties here, in terms of the culturally speaking, is fundamentally different in the way of communication. One is one way direct, and one way high context. And when these two, when a direct communication combined with low context, that means for example, all Scandinavian countries and Germany included has very direct communications and very low context. When they try to communicate with an Asian, or with the most popular example would be from Japan, which is totally indirect and totally high context, you would expect a lot of conflict, a lot of misunderstanding and unhappiness, because that you expect the other person to understand, you expect the other person to ask questions, but they don't, because they are expecting you to interpret what they just said. Yeah. Esther asked me a question. What is the biggest obstacle to become an intercultural mindset? Very good question, Esther. Anybody wants to help me out? What is the biggest obstacle to become to have an intercultural mindset? Yes, we have Enrique and Maria saying his beliefs, both almost instantaneously at the same time. And Esther told me that my intuition say to me is fear, but ... Ewa said that sticking to what I live by and unwillingness to change or to be open. Lydia said narrow-mindedness, little exposure experience to other cultures. We believe that this or that is better. Fear, Ewa said that. It's everything of that. I would think it will depend on where you are on this development continuum. Because if you are here on denial, you won't even think that there are any similarity between you and him, or you and the other person. Whereas if you're on minimization, you already passed that. You know that there are similarities, and the problem for you to become a more intellectual, to become even more interculturally, more intercultural in mindset. What is stopping you is not looking at the difference, not going past the differences because you have done that. It's for you to go past the similarities. And likewise for acceptance, where you accept it, to become even more interculturally in mindset. What you should need to do is you accepted the differences, and so what? What do you do about the differences and the similarities? It's only when you have overcome all these stages, and it's a developmental stage. And the beauty of development, as you all know by adult development theory, is that no one would wake up in the morning and become a totally different person. Well, it happens sometimes, yeah. But the thing is that it's over a gradual process. And to develop a totally intercultural mindset, you need to understand that there will be hurdles, but as we know in coaching, if you do not, it's good to know where you want to go by defining where you want to go, but it's even better when you know where you want to go and you know where you are now. So if you know that you are at the stage of minimization, almost going to acceptance, there are still work to be done, then you focus on what the kind of work for the coachee or for yourself. I hope that answered that question. And all those things that everybody has contributed, like fear, resistance to change, openness, it all happens in all the stages. But my point here is that you need to understand, like, how open are you, or how different, or how do you see culture first, by developing your own, by focusing on your own self-development. Then it becomes a catalyst for the development work of others. Right. And looking at the time now, I have my time is up to be short, and it has been really interesting for the people who has participated here and actively given me your comment. And here, well, I have Maria saying that, Maria said that the open mind helps do the development, and Sarah said that this helps if companies are aware or not. There's also some other issues on moving that no one in the company is aware. Yep. How can this help? When no one in the company is aware, well, this will be difficult, because if you are the only person in the company who is at adaptation or acceptance, and everybody else is in denial or polarization, what do you think will make you feel? Frustrated, because you think that, why can't these people get it? Why am I the only person who think of such issues, subtle issues, you know? So, and our work doesn't stop with just one coachee, one person that you coach. I think it can be a multiplier effect, because each time you coach one person, this one person will become more aware, and that he's able to talk to other people as well. And hopefully your work will influence him to talk to his HR department to get more people in the company, even though they are locals, to do coaching with you. Because the world now is getting more and more globalized, that you cannot ignore the fact that the market now is global, and that to work when you're sent overseas, you know, it's very, very common in big cities that in the same office you have multi-nations, multi-cultures, all under the same roof. Right, so my time is up now. Before I let you go, I would like everyone to contribute just one feedback to me. Just say in one word, using the chat, what this session has been for you. Just one word to describe how this session has been for you. It could be one word, or if you want to write me a phrase, that's fine as well, so that I have a quick feedback and tell me how this session has been for everyone. And at the same time now, I'm still receiving a lot of feedback from everyone. Jose mentioned that I'm really sad because I've started this webinar late. These issues happen even between people of the same culture, exactly, because they don't share the same values, exactly. Yeah, I see you in the next webinar, Jose. Pierre mentioned that the problem is that the highest level of management is in stage 1 or 2 usually, and at best 3, and those expats out there are in 3, 4, and 5. Well, true, but I think this will change very quickly over the next few years, because those who can be at the top and stay on top, they can no longer keep this mindset, because the world is getting so globalized, and intercultural mindset is the way to go and to be successful. Sarah asked me, do you think it is important for expatriates to have coaching on pre-departure? Absolutely, Sarah. I just did one this morning, and the coachee was so happy that to have a session with me before he leaves, and that even though his posting is only for 2 months, he will come back to Brazil again, and then the company will decide what they want to do in the country that he's being posted to, and that he will follow up with me and see what these 2 months of posting have done to his development as well. And I think it is like a multiplier, because if we help one person, we know this one person will help another, and this is the way to go, I think, because if we are all close by ourselves and we receive, once you receive help, automatically you know you want to help another person who you felt the same way before. And this is, I think, what coaching does to many people. Right. So, thank you for the comment. Ewa said that great. Sarah said useful. Lydia said eye-opening. Enrique said valuable. Maria said it's important. Esther said it's stimulating. Elsa said very clarifying. Sarah said very useful. Esther said, I left wanting to know more. Thank you. Well, that's exactly. This is just the tip of the iceberg, because how much can I cover in 1 hour anyway? Yeah. So stay tuned. Check on the ICC website again, because this form of intercultural coaching webinars that I do is a series. I don't stop here. And that if you see the rest of if you check the rest of my schedule, you'll see that it's a progression where I'm going with the webinars. And Nancy said, very interesting. Some aspects that normally do not take into consideration. Ewa said, fruitful, insightful. Maria said, issue is very important. Elsa said, sorry, it's very clarifying. Okay, good. Ewa said, I need more. You get more. Just stay tuned, ICC, and that log on to the next time that we have the next session with the webinar. Lichmia said, oh, Lichmia, you're here. I think you're from Russia. Or from Denmark. Hi. Okay. Thank you very much. Alejandro, pass back to you.
Many thanks, Nick, for inspiring this intercultural moment, and thanks to all that were present today. We are going to have the next session on October 30. So we wait you on this next webinar. We are going to send you an invitation, and of course we can send you afterwards the link to watch the webinar's recording on the website. Thanks again, and see you soon in the next webinar.
Thank you. Alejandro? Alejandro?